Yo, what's up, guys? This is Why Not Be Reckless, aka Why Not Be Casting. I'm one of the HCS commentators, and we have another HCS weekly report where today we're talking about one of the most, if not, the most competitive open bracket that we have seen in a very long time, possibly in the Halo's history. There are 4 teams that are going to be invited to up 2 teams for the winners bracket, 2 teams for the lower bracket, 4 teams total that are going to be invited up into pool play. And historically, the teams that ultimately make it into pool play usually have a tough time, and there's very few that end up making it out and into bracket play because the 4th place team ultimately in each and every pool ends up getting eliminated before we get to that championship Saturday and way before championship Sunday. However, this open bracket is totally different. You're going to see stars, you're going to see household names, you are going to see some of the best currently in open bracket that are really going to make some waves going into bracket play. So let's start off by talking about Cloud9, Rami, Triton, Nemesis, the same trio that's been around for quite some time, but then we're spotting or we're running with Squall late for quite some time. Now you're bringing in Septify, formerly of Complexity, formerly of the Strong Survive that Mantra roster that went absolutely insane. I think first or second in pools going into that phase 4K, which was crazy because we wanted to see more of Mantra, especially even more of Status Quo, because they were part of that run as well in pool play. We wanted to see more of that Mantra roster. Sadly, team didn't make it exactly. Woodley went in separate ways, Ace went in separate ways. Septify's found the home here with Cloud9. But the last time we saw Cloud9 in a tournament like this, we did see them bring it to the top 16, and maybe we see them do it again. Open bracket is going to be a little bit tougher this time around, but I think Cloud9's skill set translates really well from online into LAN, and actually I feel like they're even better on LAN, so watch out for Cloud9. Next up, we got to talk about Complexity, and not the Complexity you're thinking of. This is a totally new look Complexity. During Rosetermania, Complexity was the first team that ended up getting picked apart. Psycho got stolen over towards Shopify Rebellion, Collect got taken over towards Native White, and ultimately, I'm not exactly sure where Monster ended up going, but that ultimately left Tusk by himself, looking to rebuild with Complexity, and exactly what ended up doing. He went by, looked at the teams that had their players, had his players poached over to, and then ultimately went after those players that were left behind and made a damn good roster, bringing back Suppressed onto this Complexity banner. He had a short stint with G1 and a very good one, might I say. Obviously, G1 didn't find the success that they were looking for, so it's really tough to evaluate Suppress's time there, but if you were paying attention, if you were looking at the stats, you saw that Suppressed was a damage dealer and a main slayer on that roster. So really happy to see Suppressed get another chance here with Complexity. And then joining him was his old French Toast Mafia teammate in Gilkey. I remember French Toast Mafia before Charlotte. They took the world by storm in the HCS, upsetting the likes of the Phases and even the Optics and many more. They were an amazing story. Now we get to reunite Gilkey and Suppressed on the same team. Gilkey left off of that Native White roster to make room for Collect, and then you have King Nick, who was longtime teammate of Spartan. From United into FaZe, ultimately into Sentinels as well, and now we're finally going to see King Nick on his own team without Spartan. We saw him a little bit with Native Red. They ended up in the trade involving Manny, but that lasted maybe a tournament. I don't think it even lasted 2. But now we get to see him make a run with this Complexity roster alongside Tusk, and I'm really excited for this roster because they actually look really good. I've been paying attention to them in scrims. Somehow this team ended up as like, you know, this ragtag group that's brought together, not, I always say like not really a team, but really more of the best available free agents, but like cohesively it just works. Like I said, we've seen Gilkey and Suppressed play together before. I think this team is going to have an advanced understanding on how to slow the game down. And I always talk about when you have the ability to control the pace of the game, especially when you slow it down and you're comfortable within slowing it down at that, you know, a 42, 41 Slayer, even when it comes to hunkering down and setting up around that oddball or even a 2-cap on a stronghold, if you're comfortable slowing the game down and really taking advantage of your opponent's mistakes, not getting antsy, not shaking with like there's ants in your pants, but you're comfortable changing the pace of the game, I'm always leaning towards you when the game gets close, as opposed to a team that's not comfortable in those same exact positions. And that's what I think about when I think about this complexity roster. They're definitely gonna be one of the favorites to make it out of open bracket. I'll give you my predictions at the end of this video, but I'm telling you right now, if you're looking for a dark horse team to root for, complexity might be one of them. And if complexity might be one of them, Incognito is definitely another, because similar to complexity, you have a team that has no business being an open bracket and a team with a ton of potential. And similar complexity, we have 4 players that uniquely fit in their own play style. I feel like Incognito do the exact same. You have Sab and Suspector, who formerly of G1, fast players, put down damage. Sab being an entry frag player, in my opinion, entry frag player. Suspector being that dip and duck. Both of them being high damage dealers, and both of them complementing each other very well. And then the same thing with Carbea. Like I feel like Carbea did that same exact thing all throughout his career, whether it's Halo 5, whether it's Halo Infinite. Puts down shots, stays alive. Him and Suspector are going to work so well together. It's a large reason why Ryan Noob picked these 2 players to join the United. Obviously separate times, but because they share a similar play style and similar strengths, if you will, I think they're going to be playing well together. I think Sab complements them well, and then Mortally has been an underrated player for quite some time. Not only mechanically gifted, not only gifted in the 1v1s as well. We saw him in the 1v1 game, so obviously he can hold his own in individual gunfights and individual plays, but then on top of that, he's an IGL and a play caller, which I think is going to be really good for Incognito. Another team similar complexity where this team just weirdly works, and I think they're going to complement each other really well. And I think Complexity and Incognito are probably the favorites in most people's opinions, I would imagine, to make it out of open bracket, and to probably make it out of open bracket through the winner's side. Status quo: Piggy, King J, Cherished, and Diagram. This team has actually been teaming together for quite some time now. You have Piggy, who ran a lot with like Carbea and Cycle way back in Halo 5. King J, who's come over from the Call of Duty scene, mostly being known with like shredding the matchmaking playlist alongside Snakebite. Then you have Cherished, who was an Apex player, who actually was an Apex professional player, came over to Halo and has been at the top level of amateur gameplay ever since he's come over, which is not easy. And then Diagram, part of that Halo player playing triplets, just great player, great vibes. So we saw his stock kind of rising up a little bit back when he filled in with Native Red back at Charlotte, and since then he's wherever he's gone, he's found success, and he's been with Status Quo for a little while, and they've been damn good. Like I said, them and Mantra finishing first and second within their pools during the Phase 4K was crazy, and we want to see more out of the Status Quo roster now. I'm excited to see what they do. It's not going to be easy. You're competing with the likes of Incognito, the Complexities, the Cloud9s, and many more that we haven't mentioned so far. But you know what, status quo is for I should say for some reason I know for a fact that status quo always willing to accept the challenge. I got the chance to interview King J one time, and he talked about the fact that no matter who's on the other side of the table from, no matter what the competition is, he goes into every single game, every single series, whether it's scrim, whether it's tournament play, knowing that they can win. And when you have that type of attitude, you're bound to go places. Ascending Baseline, a group that's come seemingly out of nowhere. I've seen them having like a lot of like community 8s nights and whatnot. It's been really cool watching a lot of players get together of all skill levels. They have like little tournaments as well. It's actually a really sick Discord that they have, and now they have a team. Which for the longest time I think it was Envor teaming with Kratos and Avenue in them, but at the last second ends up with his former teammate from Fnatic and Super CC. They were duo way before Halo Infinite, by the way, even going back to Halo 5 and probably even before then, maybe. Whether it's clan stuff, whether it's 2v2 action, whether it's 4v4s, Super CC and Envor have found a lot of success together and are no stranger to making it out of open bracket and making it into championship bracket. So always excited to watch them. Arctic is I'll tell you right now, he is a damage dealer. Whenever you watch his screen, he is popping damage onto multiple different targets, staying alive and opening up so many lanes for his teammates. I think Arctic's gameplay is phenomenal, and every time I'm end up watching or casting, most of the time it's casting over him, I'm just so impressed by the plays that he makes. They're exciting, they're high IQ, and they're so important to what happens on the map, where it's not just like useless damage that's happening. So always excited to watch Arctic team with these boys. And then Posey, who was previously on Proton Gaming, was on Proton Gaming for a while. Proton Gaming making it out of open bracket and into top 12 back at Charlotte. Again, we're talking about, you know, players and this team being no stranger to the grind of open bracket. It's different. It's loud, it's passionate, it's draining as well. You're talking about hours upon hours on end. Even the wait before matches, if you've never been in that experience, it's different. It's not like anything before. So I promise you, if you happen to be at Arlington, you know, main stage is going to be really cool, but take a peek at the open bracket and just like feel some of the passion pit. I promise you, you won't regret it, and you'll end up staying a lot longer than you would think. But that's Ascending Baseline, and now let's go to Proton. We were just talking about Posey, formerly of Proton Gaming. Now you have Common, been there, done that, one of the original members of that Oxygen Esports roster. If you remember him, Haynes, Name, and Swish were on that team, and they were damn good early. I think it was early 2022 when Halo Infinite was first getting started with HCS. You have Squale, another former G1 member, one of the most accurate players in the game. Centered reticle, barely misses a shot. Oftentimes you'll see games end and he'll be shooting at a 60% accuracy at the end of the game. It's like, how? The man just doesn't miss. Breaking Shot, who this is my opinion. I call him a little mini Bound. This dude's mechanics are insane. His movement is incredible. It's so exciting to watch. And then he has a shot that matches with it. Breaking Shot is he's a superstar in the making. Definitely when I look at some of the top players in the amateur scene, I've always looked towards Breaking Shot late season 1, leading to early season 2, just because his gameplay is so exciting to watch. And when you need a player to be crazy, get that multi-kill, to draw the attention of the opposite team, Breaking Shot is definitely one of them. And then you have Haynes, who he's the Brett Favre of Halo, man. This man has retired more times than I've changed underwear this week, and I guess it wasn't that easy to beat. But either way, Haynes has retired, unretired. He tried to get out, to keep pulling him back in, but Haynes is back alongside his longtime duo in Common, and now with Proton Gaming once again, and sad to see Posey out. I would love to see the trio make it again, but Proton has a new look, and I feel like where we're at right now with an HS competition, I think everybody needs to be making improvements, because everyone around you is changing up, everyone around you is getting better. So I feel like, you know, you got to do something to shake up your roster. You can't come in with the same roster from Charlotte and expect to have the same results, because things are totally different than they were in the first half of the HCS this year. Excuse me. Luminosity. What the hell? Luminosity find themselves in open bracket, although I believe they were supposed to be in pool play and supposed to have Magico in the starting roster. For whatever reason, Magico can't make it to the event again. And so now you have a new look Luminosity team, but ultimate team that apparently lost their spot in pool play and will have to compete in open bracket and try to make it out. And I said it before, this is a tough open bracket. There's one open bracket you don't want to go in and try to grind out of. It is this one, and Luminosity find themselves within this open bracket, and hopefully they can go out and show what they have. They were top two. Talking about top two teams in Latin America, them and Six Karma for a while. Drift was running things, him and Tapping Buns. Of course, Tapping Buns getting snatched up by Native White, and since then trying to figure out exactly what to do with that roster. It hasn't been the same. Now it's been a kind of neck and neck between the Luminosity roster and ultimately Six Karma going. They're going at it. So. Luminosity, hopefully they can make it out. Would love to see more Latin American representation in pool play, but time will only tell for that. And you have the Shell featuring Rob the Turtle once again. There was like 1 week where the team was still going by the Shell and didn't have Rob the Turtle, and it kind of felt weird. They're no longer running with Name. There was a dispute that ended up turning kind of public, where Name and the team decided to part ways. So coming from Name's side of things, Name said that he was dropped because he didn't want to watch film review right after a mini scrim, but before an actual full scrim. They had a 2-a-day planned for that day. They apparently just did a mini scrim, which I'm going to assume is anywhere between 4 to 6 games, and then had a full scrim set up for right after that. And for whatever reason, he didn't want to watch film between the two. He said that he was open to watching film and open to watching it towards the end of the day, just didn't want to do it between the two scrims. Apparently the team didn't like that, or didn't like his response, or whatever it was. They decided to part ways with Name and not be running with Bid Teaches instead. So Shock, formerly of Gears of War, Pyle is a veteran in the scene. Rob the Turtle, same. He's been there, done that, always toward the echelon of amateur play, and normally like the gatekeeper. You're talking about normally like the gatekeepers of making it into that pro bracket. And then Bid Teaches, who similar to Breaking Shot, great mechanically, great movement wise, and a really important piece to the Shell roster. I think it's a good pickup, regardless. Even though I'm a big fan of Name. Eden Org. The team, I believe, that was formerly going as a Wubbabubs. You have Glory GG's. He was, very similar to Mighty's. I started to recognize his name showing up a lot during the free-for-alls. A lot of play during the free-for-alls, doing their thing. I'll be honest with you, outside of free-for-all gameplay, I don't know too much of him, but from what I've heard from other people, I've heard dominant Slayer, but also extremely humble, willing to learn, wants to put in the grind, is not happy, already being one of the better players in Europe, but he wants to be the best. And I think that's a great attitude to have when you're coming up as a young up-and-comer like Glory is. Bose is a veteran within the European scene, so probably a good player to mentor him a bit. Same with Fluxes. And Sire, I apologize. I'm not too familiar. I'm not too familiar with them. I'm guessing a young gun similarly to Glory, because I remember when first hearing about this I'm sorry, about this team, I heard them having a good mix of veteranship and then a good mix of youth as well. So I'm gonna assume a young talent in the EU, and if I'm wrong, I do apologize. If you know more about the European scene, please let me know in the comments down below. I apologize if I got that incorrect. Jay Lanes, you have Clonely, Respectful, Septic, and 2 Foxy. This where Wubba Bubs was a team that was, you know, going neck and neck with Navi. I think Jay Links was as well, and it was almost like you had obviously the big dogs sitting up top as the #1 team in Europe, and then you had Navi, who was number 2 but with the target on their back. Jay Lings and the team formerly known as the Wubba Bubs were battling it out with Navi time and time again, multiple times taking them over to a game 5, and then even a few times we saw Navi finish below both Jay Lings and the team formerly known as the Wubba Bubs. So EU has some talent right now. Obviously Quadrant are top dogs, and I'm always rooting for Quadrant, but it's not just them. EU is pretty strong. Mind Freak and Divine Mind, 2 more teams coming out of ANZ. It's always tough. I feel you know, every time we talk about teams in the ANZ, we talk about teams that don't get valuable enough practice and only see one meta, which is their own, and you know, you want them to get more. You want to get more practice, but with the way the internet works, it's not a good time or experience for them or even teams over here in North America. So it's really tough. Either way, I am excited to watch. I feel like there's one thing that every time I see Divine Mind and Mind Freaks, when they take the table or when they take the stages, they're aggressive. So as long as they're not afraid to kind of bang with almost anybody, and going into open bracket, I think you have to have that level of confidence where you're not afraid to get offensive. You're not afraid to get into the face of your opponent. You can't consistently be backing down and be on your back foot. Otherwise, eventually you're gonna get overwhelmed. That Achilles heel, you know, that it ain't strong enough to hold the weight of 4 players, you know, like of like Incognito flying at you. So I'm ultimately excited to see what happens with the ANZ teams, but you know, I don't want to lie to you guys and say that, you know, they're one of the favorites to make it out of open. Open is really tough. You just see me name off a bunch of teams, and I'm not even done yet. There's a few teams that ultimately weren't even in this list. Like for example, sorry, excuse me 1 second. Straight sick. I'll add another team in there: Kratos, Ace, Avenue, and Tony Two Turn. At one point in time, this actually did have Envor on the group, and Envor and Tony Two Turn have been teaming together for quite some time. We did see Ace and Kratos teaming together for a very short amount of time. It was them, Command Station, and Miss Laycar, until eventually I believe Command Station was dropped for Avenue, and then eventually Miss Laycar was dropped as well. So Kratos and Ace have teamed together for a little bit longer than the trio of Kratos, Ace, and Avenue, and then you have Tony Two Turn, who has had a run-in with these boys as well. So they've been together before. I like the team a lot. I really do, and I think they're gonna make a deep run. But if you're asking me if they make it out of open, there's only 4 spots, and no matter how good these boys are, I don't think they make it out of open. It's nothing against them. It's really more of a testament of how tough the competition is. And same for the next team: Hunter, Gunplexion, Persecute, and Straight Sick. A little bit of a content creator team with, you know, Hunter, JJS, Complexion, and Persecute, top content creators. Then you have Straight Sick, who's supposed to be retired. But you know Hunter had to bring him out for a little bit. They had to bring him out of retirement. Him and Haynes get to decide if they want to be in or out. But this is going to be a really fun team to watch in open bracket. I think very similar to Crowd Pleasers. I think they're going to make a deep run. But when you run into the teams like the C9s, the Complexities, the Incognitos, even the Status Quos and the Proton Gaming, I think they're going to have a tough time with them. And then, to be honest with you, I question what happens when they run into the shells, the luminosities, the needed orgs, like anybody on this top on this top list, even descending baselines. I question what happens when you run into them. Even that second tier is going to be tough to deal with. So I'm rooting for both of these teams. I just don't want to get you guys' hopes up that they're going to make it out of open bracket, because open bracket ultimately is so tough. And I guess it's enough time beating around the bush. I'm sure you guys are probably asking who's going to be my teams that make it out of open. Give me Incognito and Complexity to make it out of winners, and then I'm gonna make some people mad. I know this already. I'm gonna make some people. Oh my gosh. I want to go ascending baseline. I want to go ascending baseline and Proton, but then I also want to put C9 up there. Like, oh my gosh. Sorry, I got Complexity Incognito. Give me Proton Gaming. They did it back at Charlotte, and I don't know, man. I really like them. I like them a lot. Give me Proton Gaming, and then I'm gonna go Complexity, Incognito, Ascending Baseline, and Proton Gaming. Okay, I'm gonna go that. So it's like pulling teeth right there. Give me Complexity, Incognito, Ascending Baseline, and Proton Gaming to make it out of open bracket. I know Status Quo's gonna kill me. I know Cloud9's gonna kill me. I've been very big on both of these teams for a very long time. I don't know, man. I haven't seen Status Quo in an open bracket run, so I'm afraid to go. I talk about this a lot. I talk about LAN experience, and having success on LAN leads to more success. And I feel like I've seen Envor, Super CC, and Arctic even Posey on Proton make deep runs in open bracket. It's a grind. It's different. It's different than just your regular online tournament. It's a grind. And it's different. I feel like I've seen them make deep runs in open. Same thing with Proton Game. We saw Proton Gaming make a deep run in open bracket, and then ultimately make it to top 12. I've seen these guys make runs like that, so that's why I lean a little bit more towards them. And I wanted to go Cloud9 for that same reason, but again, there's only 4 spots. So yep, those are my picks for the open bracket teams to watch out. Even though all of these teams need to be watching out for, you happen to be at Arlington, make sure you go near the Passion Pit. And I'm sure you guys in the comments down below are gonna roast me. I'm sure you guys have a different take. I think you can make a good argument for most of these teams making it out of open brackets. So let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It's good for the algorithm. YouTube tends to push it to more people, and the more viewers, the better for me. So, hey. All right, guys. I will see you guys soon, and the next video we post on YouTube will be after Arlington.